Hi friends, welcome to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Caitlin and I like to film eyeshadow palette, ranking, and review videos, as well as the occasional other beauty content sprinkled in. So if any of those things sound interesting to you, I highly recommend that you hit that subscribe button because I post 2 videos every single week. And for those of you that are not new here, my face is happy that you are seeing it again. And I believe the wig I am wearing is the Maddie wig from Chelsea Smith Cosmetics. And yeah, I think that's it. There is a tutorial for this look that will be on my TikTok sometime this week. So make sure you're following me over there, KATELYNHOUSEMAKEUP. I have the same name on Instagram if you're not following me there either. I think you would like the content I put on both of those. I do stick to pictures on Instagram. I should probably try and get into posting more reels, but it's just exhausting. Editing inside of Instagram is exhausting. Anyways, as you can see by the title of this video, we are going to be talking about the palettes that I feel are underrated in my collection. And I think I used the term criminally underrated in the title, at least I'm planning on it. And that might be a slight exaggeration, but I will explain why I think these palettes are underrated. Before you get angry in the comments, let me explain why I consider them underrated, because I feel like there's different interpretations of underrated. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, if you want to hear the 10 palettes that I find to be underrated in my collection, then you should go ahead and keep on watching. First things first, I did not include any palettes that I am still in the process of reviewing. So I have some palettes that I have not completed my review, and by completed my review, I mean I have not used every shade in the palette. I consider that completing my review of an eyeshadow palette. So if I'm still reviewing a palette, it is not in this list, so you might feel like there's some, but it's possible like more recent ones that you are surprised I'm not mentioning, but there's a reason for that. So let's just do it. We're going to start off with the first 2 palettes. So this isn't in an order, it's not ranking, but this is number 10, number 9 of our countdown. But the Bijouette and Violette Étendue palettes from Viseart. So I feel like the Violette Étendue, this one, was popular when Viseart initially launched it. I feel like there was quite a few people that liked it, but I just like overall feel like there's not a ton of discussion on this palette, and this is the perfect like half purple half neutral palette. It is so good and I adore it. And I think what I really love, and I just want to talk about Viseart in general because I feel like they're underrated as far as a brand goes, but their palettes are small. And I know that's what some people don't like, is that they're expensive and you're not getting a ton of product. But honestly, if we're all honest with ourselves, how many of us are actually using an entire eyeshadow pan? If you are one of those people, hats off to you, and I could see why you wouldn't like this. But if you don't ever actually use an entire eyeshadow pan, like every single shade, I don't think it matters if you get less product. Whatever. Anyways, let me backtrack that for a second. You do with your money what you would like. But personally, I kind of like these smaller ones. I think they're great to travel with. This is so pretty. They're magnetic, so I can swap out shades if I don't want all of these and I want to switch it up a little bit. And then it's still a perfect travel size. So I just really like Viseart, and I think they have cute packaging. And yeah, as I get older and I want to be more neutral, although that's obviously not happening right now, I feel like I'll really enjoy Viseart even more because they do tend to be a little bit more neutral. So if that's why you're not into them, I can see that. Most of their palettes are pretty neutral. This is the Bijouette Étendue. Let's take a moment to appreciate the Art Deco packaging. Stunning. This is what the inside of the palette looks like. Listen, 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 listen. I know it's a neutral matte with colorful shimmers, but there's something about these shimmers. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how Viseart somehow has these magical shimmers that aren't like sparkly glitzy like most shimmers from indie brands right now. They just nail these shimmers that look amazing on your lid and don't add any texture. I truly don't know how they do it. It is magical. But this palette is gorgeous. I don't feel like I remember hearing a lot of people talk about it, especially when it initially launched, and I don't feel like I hear a lot of people talk about it now. So I feel like this palette's underrated. And I also want to include both of these palettes because I don't tend to reach for them as much as I would like to, and they're really, really nice. So I feel like I personally also underrate them in my collection. All right, another one that I would like to humbly admit that I underrated. This is the Lunar Beauty Moonspell Volume 2 palette. I feel like a lot of people, this was when Lunar Beauty switched the formula, and I felt like Manny was very upfront that like the formula switched. So we were all like, you switch the formula, and like really zeroing in on, do I like this formula as much as I like their old formula? And so the older Lunar Beauty formula that ended up, you know, if you're not familiar, ended up costing quite a bit more to create. So to keep costs where they were at, he switched to a different formula. The older formula is perfect. Like the mattes themselves are amazing, but I think the new shimmer formula is better personally. So anyways, I also feel like I got the hang of these mattes as I've used this palette more, and as I've used more indie makeup, they have similar matte formulas. So I don't get bad vibes from this palette as much as I did when I did my initial review of it. Which any of these palettes, if I have videos that are dedicated, either a short or a video where I dedicated doing a look to it, I will link that in the description box down below if you want any inspiration with any of these. But I love this palette. It's a purple red color story. It's gorgeous. And it is just like, you got some neutrals in here. I don't know. I just think this is really pretty. And I was recently looking back on looks that I had done with this palette, and I was like, I liked every single look I did with this palette. So I don't know why I was like so harsh on it. And then I pulled it out relatively recently, and I don't think I posted a look or took a picture of it, otherwise I'd put it up here. But I really like how the look came out, and then I felt like I didn't have as hard of a time with these mattes as I like did initially. So that's what's making me feel like maybe it's more similar to other indie mattes that I've been using lately, so it doesn't bug me as much. But I don't know. I feel like I let the fact that it was a new formula get in the way of really enjoying this palette. I also don't know if that palette's still available, so if it's not, I'm sorry. There's others in here that I know for a fact aren't available. You know, let's just get into the one that I know isn't available. The BellaBeauteBar and Brittany Huffman collab palette. First of all, the packaging. Is that not the most beautiful psychedelic dream? I love it. So I feel like this palette is so underrated, and I know that they're not I think this is sold out and they're not restocking it anymore. I just feel like this is so good. Like the mattes in this palette are some of the best that I've used from BellaBeauteBar, and it still has their stunning shimmer formula. And I just think this like grungy neon rainbow is an out of this world color story. So I really feel like this palette in particular is underrated. I think if you don't have this palette, I am sorry. If you do, we all need to be using it more. Every single one of us. It is perfect. It is so pretty. Listen, I love Brittany, and her palette with Ensley Rain is also stunning, but I don't feel like that one's underrated because it's sold out on pre-order like 4 times. So that I would have included that one, but I don't think it's underrated. This next one should shock none of you. None of you should be surprised that I'm including this palette in here. And maybe this is where I think you're gonna yell at me, because you're gonna be like, this palette is not underrated, but hear me out. The Ace Beauté Palette-opoly palette. This is underrated by everybody else, except I think like maybe Angie, like Aniela Kanikvist and Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner. I feel like they're the only 2 people that like really love this as much as I do. Maybe not. I don't think anybody loves this palette as much as I do, but they're close. They at least recognize that this is a solid palette, but I adore this palette. I think the game got in a lot of people's heads of feeling like you had to play the game to use the palette, but you don't, and it's an amazing palette if you don't play the game. It's also fun to play the game, but if you don't want to play the game, you don't have to. You have so many options in this palette. I love it so much. The mattes are amazing. The shimmers are amazing. You have deep shades. You have light shades. You have neon bright shades. You have shimmers all across the board. This palette is perfection. Is this my perfect palette? I don't know. It might be. It's pretty dang close. It is pretty dang close. I love this palette. And therefore, I feel that the rest of the world is underrating this palette, because everybody should be obsessed with this palette. As obsessed as I am. Okay, next up, the Give Me Glow Bad Witch Club. It says season fall, but no other seasons have come out, so I don't know if they're going to do more seasons, but this is a Give Me Glow palette. This is, I think, the only Give Me Glow palette I have left. But I feel like I really underrate this color story, and I don't end up reaching for this palette a lot. And I think it's because the shimmers in here are darker. So I just feel like it's not like a perfect palette for me, but I have so many sparkly, special toppers, things like that, that I think I could definitely use this palette as like a base and create really amazing looks with it. And I think if I'm being honest with myself, it's probably similar to the Blend Bunny Lure palette. Yeah, the vibes of those are very similar. Okay, well, I do like the Lure palette. But anyways, I really think this is nice. Very pretty. I like this a lot. This is another one that I don't know if this is still available. But if it's not, a similar. If you are new here, I should take this moment to let you know that purple is my favorite eyeshadow color. I know I'm wearing blue right now, but purple is my favorite. So this palette I find to be underrated. This is the Night Flower palette from Lethal Cosmetics. I think the last time I was on their site, I saw that they had restocked this, so I do feel like you can still get this, or you can at least get the singles in like a bundle. This palette, I felt like a lot of people who got this palette were like, yeah, this is a good palette, but I didn't see a lot of people review it or use it or post looks with it, and it is so good. It is so good. This shade right here, I don't know what that shade is called, Aurora. Out of this world, amazing, beautiful, stunning, love it. There's duochromes in here. The purple mattes are amazing. It's like, what else do you want in a palette? You know what I mean? This might be my perfect palette. I don't know. I love all of these. That's why I feel that they are underrated by everybody else, because I love them. Although some of them I do feel like I underrate too. Can you tell that I came into filming this video with no actual plan? Nothing. Next up is the Simply Posh Cosmetics. This is the Genuine Gems palette. And the reason I included this one, I feel like a lot of people do say nice things about this palette, or just Simply Posh in general. But I personally, in almost every video I do, I talk about how amazing the Fairy Tale Fairies palette is. I recommend the Fairy Tale Fairies palette in almost every video that I do that's like palette recommendations on TikTok. I hype that palette up so much. So I feel like I personally have underrated this palette, but this is a jewel tone dream. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous palette. The shimmers are amazing. The mattes are amazing. The color story is incredible. This is really nice, and I really like it a lot, and I feel like I don't give this one the love that it deserves. So this one is not necessarily underrated by the rest of the world, but it is underrated by me. This one, I don't know if it's available. I feel like the individual palette's not available, but you can buy like a set or something. It's the Disco Fox and Kathleen Lights, or the Il Maquillage and Kathleen Lights collab, the Disco Fox palette. There we go. That was hard for me to say. This palette, okay, let's see if we can. This palette, this is my perfect neutral palette. This palette is so good. Like, if you could wear this palette for like 12 hours and there will not be a crease in sight. This doesn't crease at all. The mattes don't crease. Like, it looks the exact same hours after wear. It is so pretty. And then it's like this sparkly, like wet looking metallic. Oh my gosh. It is so good. And I felt like a lot of people skipped it when it launched. And I don't know if it's because like Kathleen's had a lot of palettes, so you know, it wasn't as exciting of a collab for a lot of people. It was mostly neutral, so I feel like that's where people were like, I don't really need that, but this is good. It's really good. Last up, and I feel like this might be a personal preference one, but this is the Cash Beauty Color Trip palette. I think it's just called the Color Trip Artistry palette. So it has cake liners at the bottom. Mine's a hot mess. And then, you know, all these different shades up top for eyeshadow, like, or pigment, whatever. Doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying. Anyways, I know a lot of people reviewed this palette, they being like, it's okay. It wasn't their favorite. I really like this palette. I haven't used the cake liner or like the water activated liner portion in a while. Or have I? I don't think I've used this one as recently. I think I tend to reach for my other water activated liners, but I can't remember if I had issues with these. But I feel like the palette itself is really nice, and it's a really fun color story. And I think they have a really solid formula, and yeah, I really like this. And I just feel like it's really inspiring when I look at it. There's like different things I want to do. I see all these different color combinations, and I just feel like not enough people use this palette or recommend this palette or talk about this palette, and I really like it. I think Cash Beauty has a nice eyeshadow formula. like I said, I can't remember the last time I used the water activated liner, so I don't know if I would still recommend those over like the Glisten Cosmetics, you know, and other brands that have really solid water activated liner formulas. But maybe I'll try and use this palette soon, but I really like it. So quick video because I am filming this on Friday night. I wasn't, we're procrastinating a little bit this week. It's been a crazy week at work. But anyways, quick video for today. That was it. Those were the 10 palettes that I feel are truly underrated in my collection. I did not include any Natasha Denona or Melt, and I did that intentionally because I feel like those two brands are very hyped and everything they come out with is hyped by somebody. So I tried to focus on brands and particularly palettes from brands that I felt like either other people didn't hype or I didn't hype enough. And yeah, those were just kind of the palettes that I picked. So let me know if you feel like you have a palette that is super underrated in your collection that I didn't mention here, or if you think I am overrating any of these underrated palettes. I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. But with that, I will see you all next time. Bye.